All right, good morning. This is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. I don't have a really, I shouldn't say, I won't say that, but I don't have so much time today, so I can't get into it anyway. I noticed that the college football playoffs, when they come out every Tuesday leading up to the final poll, and people get all excited about the rankings and all of that. I don't, um, only because I know that a lot of these teams that you see in the rankings, they haven't played each other, or they have other games that they have to win that are critical to their destinations and they're upcoming. So why would I get excited about a ranking at that point when I know that the critical part is coming? If you're one of these teams that are on the bubble, you're so concerned about your ranking that you forget that you got to go out and play the damn game, and you end up getting beat by some team that doesn't have any business beating you. That almost happened to Texas A&M. South Carolina's not a bad team, but they just don't seem to have everything together enough that they can beat the top teams consistently. Can they beat them once or twice? Yeah, they can do that. But to say that they can do it consistently, no. So it was rather surprising that they jumped out to that 30-3 halftime lead against Texas A&M. I was surprised that it got that large, but I'm not surprised that they would have a halftime lead. And I'm also not surprised that Texas A&M came back. I told the guy, I said, look, man, as you know, Texas A&M was down 30-3 at halftime. And this before I even checked the scores. I saw the score earlier at halftime, but I didn't go back and check and see what had happened. When you have these games like that, the scores usually go one or two ways. Either the team that's leading is going to continue pounding you, or the other team is going to make some kind of miraculous comeback. Sometimes the team will make a comeback, and the other team who had the big lead, they'll pull away from them. So one of those three scenarios is what you're going to get in those blowout games. But the question, or the thing that must be answered by the team with the big lead, is what are you going to do? Are you going to keep attacking, do the same things that got you that big lead, or are you going to pull off the gas to try to run the clock out or show some humility for your opponent? You can't do that. If you're going to pull off the gas and you're up 30-3 at halftime, before you pull off the gas, you need to get up to 50-3. Then it's pretty safe to say that the other team doesn't have a whole lot of time to come back. But this A&M game, it didn't take them very long at all to come back. By the time it was 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they had already taken the lead. So that lets you know that the mental focus was not there for the Aggies. And if they come out like that, say against Texas, even though Texas is struggling, they're going to lose. They get into the SEC championship game, which is probably going to be against Georgia, they're going to lose. So mindset is everything. And another example of worrying about the polls too much, you take a school like Texas Tech. I think they're sitting at number 5 right now with one loss. They can go from number 5 to 15 with a loss, because a lot of people look at the Big 12 like it's not that great of competition. You already lost one game that you should have won. I believe they lost to Arizona State. You beat BYU, who was hovering around 13 or 14, and people are saying that was a fluke. Well, I don't think it was a fluke. I was sitting there watching that game, and BYU can't get anything offensively. But the people who are trying to get you excited about a potential Big 12 rematch against these guys, trying to tell me that BYU slowed Texas Tech down on offense. How the hell? Yeah, they didn't bust the clock, but they bust BYU head. BYU couldn't move the football. So all of a sudden they can miraculously move the ball in the championship game. You know, it's just like two people fighting on the street. If one guy's twice the size of another and he beat the hell out of him, and he got 5 or 6 opponents just like the one you just beat, you're going to keep on winning. Hey, this guy's a great fighter. But when he runs up against a guy the same size, same height, same quickness, all of that, then you got a completely different fight. You don't look so good. And that's BYU. They don't look that good when they play against a team that's better than them, and that's Texas Tech. But I mentioned Tech for a reason. If they were to somehow lose to BYU, that'll give them 2 losses. And that coveted spot that they have right now in the playoffs, they're going to drop. Might even drop all the way out the damn pole. And is it fair? No. But that's just the way it is. And some people in the SEC feel like, shit, the SEC's, not only should they get 5 teams, they should get 6 or 7. Because according to them, hands down, they're the greatest conference in the world. A lot of great football in the SEC. You can't deny that. But like I've been telling you guys for years, you got 2 or 3 teams at the top. You got 2 or 3 teams at the bottom, and everybody else is in the middle. And this goes for all conferences. If you put all those middle tier teams in the bag and shake them up, then you get what you got last year in the playoffs. You thought you was going to see an SEC team in the championship game. I didn't see that. You didn't want Notre Dame in the playoffs, but they'd be an SEC team. But in the BCS era, or in the era of when you're the best team in the SEC and you can hide behind the aura of the conference and you don't really have to challenge yourself, and you get into a 14 playoff or a BCS championship where you were selected to be there, you didn't play your way there, it makes all the difference. So competition is the ultimate determiner of everything. And this is why I love this new college football playoff era, because you can't hide no more. Teams like the University of Florida, who I personally deem as a coward when it comes to scheduling, they can't be that way anymore. The conference now has put them at a 9-game schedule, and you still have to play another team outside your conference that's a Power 4. So the Gators can't hide anymore. They got to play. They can't say I'm from the SEC, so I have to be in the championship game. Don't work that way no more. You got to get out there and play. Then you say Texas and Oklahoma can't play. Well, I can't tell the way that they come through and do damage in the SEC. Yeah, Georgia was able to get by them the last couple of times, and they won. But damn it, it wasn't like what you thought it was going to be when these two teams come from a conference that can't play football. The stakes were raised mightily. And if that's not a good enough example, they showed me when Texas A&M and Missouri came in and what they did. For a couple of years, those were Big 12 teams running roughshod through the SEC. No, they didn't win the championship, but Missouri got there a couple of times in the East, from the East. So every time something like this happens, a change, playoffs, realignment, it shows you that all these teams are on the same level. Whether you get the bounce or not in the end, that remains to be seen. But the SEC, I don't think deserves, I would give them at most 4 slots. Yeah, there are a couple of teams that have arguments to be in the playoffs. But if you only have 12 teams, and this is supposed to be a national tournament, how can you justify putting so many teams from one conference in a small tank? Big 12, I mean, the Big 10, they're going to get Indiana, Ohio State. They're going to be in there. Oregon and USC, one of them, the winner of this game was going to be there. So that's 3. So they could possibly get 4 teams in there. And you got 6 SEC teams. That's it's greatly unbalanced. And that's not what a national championship is. What they did last year, how they had it set up, I didn't have a problem with it. If you win your conference, you should go to the playoffs, and you should be either hosting the game or getting a bye. I didn't have a problem with that. Yeah, some other teams are probably better. Yeah, they play a more tougher road, but the road that you think is going to be tough, oftentimes, it ain't so. Just because you have a close game with somebody in front of 100,000 people, that doesn't mean you're the best team. It's too small fry fighting it out in front of a big crowd. So SEC, good good conference, great conference, play good football there, but to deserve that many teams, no, I don't think so. Now you got James Franklin. He took. He announced. They were announced him the other day, and he had the press conference yesterday. He walking across the carpet and all of that. Got his vine on, and he looked the sound apart. And I think he'll be able to have some success at Virginia Tech. It shouldn't take him very long to get there. It's not like years ago where you had to go get your recruits and build from within and slowly build. No, 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 no. You can transform a team overnight now with these NILs. Now, his name is big enough that he should be able to go and sway some of those recruits his way. Even some of those guys that he had good rapport with over at Penn State, some of those guys are going to come over. So I think it was a great hire for Virginia Tech, but it seemed like to me he took the first thing smoking. I would have sat around and waited a little bit longer just to see what was going to take place. But one thing I do like, Virginia Tech and the ACC is not the same pressure cooker as a school in the SEC. Take LSU. You can't tell me that LSU is not peeing down their leg the way they're handling this Brian Kelly situation. They don't want to pay the man. So Kelly, he's going to have to take him to court. But if you're a coach that want to possibly go to LSU and you see all this crap going on where the governor gets involved, they don't want to pay the buyout that was agreed to in the beginning. Now you're trying to back out on it, knowing that that is the way business is done nowadays in college football. Why would I go to a situation like that when, number one, you're going to blame me and the whole world for one loss, and you want to run me out, and the governor could come in and sweep everybody out when he get the urge to do so, and then you don't want to pay me to boot? Why the hell would I go to a situation like that? If you Lane Kiffin, why would you do that? But when those names get thrown out there, these coaches have egos just like everybody else. So they automatically seem like they have an obligation to go look at these jobs because their name been thrown out there. Don't make any sense. That's why I'm glad this guy Signetti, he re-signed with Indiana. Because for him to leave Indiana, a program that hadn't done anything, and I mean absolutely nothing in their history of college football, and you're building into a power, why would you go somewhere else when people are going to expect you to do what you're doing in Indiana? And 9 times out of 10, you don't have the same. You're not going to have the same fortune you're having now. You're in the best possible situation. You're where you're supposed to be. So why would he leave that to go somewhere else to try to duplicate what you already have in place? It don't make sense. That's why it does not make sense to me for Lane Kiffin to do the same thing in Mississippi. Only thing that will make you consider leaving in that situation if you're Kiffin is the fact that you don't want to stay somewhere too long. I don't know how long he's been there, 6, 7 years now, and the message could be getting a little stale at that point. But I don't think Kiffin's in a bad spot. I think he should stay right where he is. And but for what I understand, he's got emissaries going out looking at Gainesville and looking at Baton Rouge and trying to determine if this is a good fit for the Kiffins. He's a damn fool, but he's a coach's kid, and dad bounced around, so I guess he feel like he got to do the same thing. But it's whatever. But LSU, I would not go there, and they're going to have to hire somebody who just want to be part of a big name program and going to sign some deal that's not good. And if it's not beneficial to the governor or satisfactory to the governor, they're going to renege and take you to court over it. Eventually, Kelly's going to get his money, but it don't look good for LSU. But that just brings me to the fact about Franklin. He's supposed to get $49 million from Penn State, but this new deal with Virginia Tech, he's only going to get $9 million from Penn State. Hell, if it was me, I want to collect every last cent I got. There's no reason for me not to get my money. But he said in his press conference, he got no other hobbies, no nothing except for football. Well, I'm a football junkie just like the rest of them, but I think I can find something else to do if I got $49 million coming to me and a payout. And, I come back when I feel like it, but I'm going to collect some of that money before I did anything. And I won't be in no big ass rush to do it. Yeah, Virginia Tech wouldn't be there. There'd be other jobs that you might get. Won't be Virginia Tech, but might be even better than Virginia Tech. Whatever happens to you, you're going to go where you're supposed to go. So it don't even matter. But I think that SEC is a good conference. 6 teams, 5 teams. No, I think each conference, any conference should be capped at 4. And I think they got 4 worthy teams that could that should be in the playoffs, but no more than that. Anything beyond 4, then you don't have a national tournament. And you completely discounting Georgia Tech, they still only have 1 loss. And they're not even in the top, they're not even in the 12 right now. And if they win that conference, then why would Georgia Tech not be eligible for the playoffs? It don't make sense. Now, they're looking at the fact that Georgia Tech's got to play Georgia. Well, even though Georgia's been beat regularly, Georgia Tech, they can cause Georgia some problems. That's a game Georgia needs to get through and over with, because in football, anybody can get hurt. And then a rivalry like that, anything can happen. I've seen them do it to Georgia before, and don't mean it won't happen to them again. I think Georgia's, even if they were to lose to Georgia Tech and to the SEC championship game, I don't think that would knock them out of the playoffs. It would knock Alabama out or somebody else like that, but I don't see Georgia being knocked out of the playoffs. But that would be a nightmare scenario for them if they were to lose the SEC championship and to Georgia Tech. And I'd like to see what the committee would do with that. But I think Georgia's pretty much in. The question is Alabama in? And if Alabama is in, what about Oklahoma? And right now, they're projecting Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia, and Ole Miss to make it from the SEC. I don't think all 5 of those teams are going to make it. Somebody's going to fall off. And this is a perfect opportunity for Auburn to ruin things for the Tide. Will they do it? We'll see. I don't think they have enough bullets this year. But then again, Alabama, you get to the quarterback, he might do anything. Saw the other day where I saw some chinks in his armor. I've been hearing from some of the fans that they don't really like the quarterback. I thought the quarterback's been playing pretty well over the year. But just like any quarterback, I've never seen one throw on his back. And Simpson, you get close to him, you can cause some problems. And it'll be interesting to see just what Auburn does for that one game. And also with Georgia Tech taking on Georgia next week. And that's going to be interesting as well. So it'll be a lot of good football. But I didn't say anything about Buffalo and Houston. It got off track. I think Buffalo is a good football team, but they're susceptible to breakdowns, just like what they had against Miami. You think they got over that by beating the Bucks, but Houston is still capable of beating the Bills. So that should be an interesting matchup, given that parity is back into play in the NFL, meaning that you might look great this week, terrible the next week, and the team you playing is on the same roller coaster. So you're going to have really great games when you have teams that on the up week playing against each other at the same time. That makes for good football. And of course, Shedeur Sanders finally gets his start. All these excuses and crap you've been hearing about this guy, he's getting a whole week of practice, getting all the reps with the number 1 team. So what you're going to see out of this guy is what he really is. So everybody's watching. Stefanski, his rep is on the line. Why would you hold this guy back if he goes out and plays well? Now, granted, it's going to be against the Raiders, but we still get an idea about what it is. And I'm tired of hearing all the talk, holding this guy back, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear none of that crap. When the whistle blows, we're going to see what this guy can do in the NFL. And that's what it's all about. So anyway, I just want to come in and chime in and talk a little football with you guys. I didn't get nobody chiming in on my votes today, but that's okay. If you like my brand of rap, like and subscribe, and I'll be back on this time in the morning, unless there's some breaking news. I'll come back this evening. Going to do a little bit more basketball tonight. Got some more football highlights coming over the weekend, and between then, I have some more stuff coming. So I got a lot of good content out there. Check me out. This is Sports for Real, the Coach All. I catch you guys on the flip side. I'm out. Steelers going in the playoffs, man. Get about college.